Welcome to Excuse My ADHD, a podcast for adults with or who think they may have ADHD. I'm your host, Jeanette, and this is my journey. Hello, and welcome to Excuse My ADHD, episode number 8. Shift Your Focus with Heather Vickery. I'm your host, Jeanette, and I'm navigating ADHD one distraction at a time. Well, as you guys know, this is November, and November is kind of unofficial kickoff for the holiday season, at least here in the U.S. We start with Thanksgiving, a day to get together with the loved ones, be it friends or family or both. And during the month of November, a lot of people start posting on social media or writing things that they're grateful for in their lives. We usually only do this for a short time, either for the whole month, couple days, just the day of Thanksgiving. But what we don't realize is that by doing this consistently and mindfully, we can actually change our brain wiring. Just the simple act of being grateful can make us happier and more focused. So in this episode, I got to speak with Heather Vickery of Vickery & Company. She has a book called Shift Your Focus, a gratitude journal, and she has another one coming out, which is a gratitude journal more for families and children. And we'll talk about that during the episode as well. But we talk about just how powerful gratitude can be. So if you're a first-time listener, thanks for checking me out. And if you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back. Hello, and welcome to Excuse My ADHD. I'm your host, Jeanette, and today I am interviewing Heather Vickery. She is an award-winning entrepreneur, business owner, and success coach. But Heather's just not a savvy businesswoman. She's an inspiration. She had a major life transformation after divorce, and her world was turned upside down. Suddenly, the mother of 4 had a freedom to be her most authentic self. It empowered her with confidence that she needed to repair, rebuild, and relearn who she was. Today, Heather leverages her entrepreneurial skills and expertise to coach individuals towards greater personal and professional fulfillment through her company, Vickery & Co. Her transformational coaching practice. She's also a celebrated speaker. Heather inspires audiences and empowers attendees with tools they need to bold and meaningful lives through her story of personal bravery, perseverance, and resilience. Heather is the author of Gratitude Journal, Shift Your Focus, the new book, Grow Grateful, A Gratitude Family for Kids and Families, and the executive producer and host of the Brave Files podcast. She's a strong believer in strengthening her community and active in many charitable organizations. And apparently she is obsessed with Hamilton, an American musical, and loves to travel. So Heather, welcome, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on. It's always so funny to hear people read my bio.
No, I kind of love that, though. I haven't seen Hamilton, and I'm a little bit sad about that.
Oh, you need to change that. ASAP.
It was sold out when it came here. And
where are you located?
See, I live in south of Cincinnati.
Okay.
And I didn't even know about it until it was already sold out.
Get your butt to Chicago. It's going to be here through the second week in January. It's been here for 4 years. I've seen it 5 times.
Oh, wow. See, I've heard rave reviews about it. So I would love to see it. And Chicago's not that far.
Not at all.
Okay. So I guess let's start. I want to know a little bit about your podcast, The Brave Files.
Awesome. Thank you for asking. The Brave Files is, so it's not a business podcast, but it is, however, an extension of my core values as a human and as a business owner. I interview people every week who step out of fear and into bravery in every imaginable way. And I'll give you some examples in a moment. But the idea is that we can learn to embrace bravery instead of let fear keep us down, and it enriches our lives. It enriches the lives of the people around us. We feel happier and more successful and honestly more in control over the things happening in our lives. And bravery, it isn't being fearless. In fact, it's acknowledging fear and choosing to do it anyway. And you can find it in any element of your life. So the show interviews people, who are afraid of heights, but they've gone up in a hot air balloon, and people who have sat with their children as they died. Or I had a 9/11 firefighter, like who was a first responder, share his story. Incredible stories. A young woman in the UK who is Muslim and was born with one full arm and her other arm wasn't there from her elbow forward. And she's a competitive rock climber. Wow. in a hijab with one arm. Right. Wow. So I love Anusha's story. It's one of my favorite, but I interview people who are running for public office, but they never have before, right? There are just a million ways to embrace bravery in your life from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep. And they're not always big, but when we can redefine what it means and how we want to welcome it into our lives, it really changes everything.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that is completely relatable, especially I think people with ADHD, we're, I think, more resilient than we give ourselves credit for, because we are constantly being told we're lazy, or we're constantly failing at things, losing jobs or bad grades. Yeah. But the fact that we keep going, I think most people don't realize how brave they are for that. And they get lost in it, the fear.
I completely agree with that. And as a professional, as a coach, I love to work with people who have, different learning styles. Just because you have ADHD doesn't mean you can't do all of the things that everybody else does. You just maybe want to come at it from a different angle. And, one of my favorite stories to tell when I speak publicly, my children go to a progressive education school, which is project-based, student-led, social justice-based learning. It's an incredible program. And when my now fourth grader was in third grade, the very first week, they do daily math. So there are 12 kids in the class, and they have to come up with a math problem, and the answer has to be the day of the month.
Oh, wow.
And so they come up any way you want to come up with a math problem. You can make it as simple or as complicated as you want. It doesn't matter as long as you get the correct answer. So they all do their math problems, and then they share in the group what their strategy was, right? What's your math strategy? And all 12 kids had a different problem, and they all, of course, got to the same answer. And the teacher says to this group of 8 and 9-year-olds, okay, if all of you used a different strategy and got the same conclusion, what does that tell you? And the kid said that there are a lot of ways to solve a problem. And I just want to remind everybody all the time, there are a lot of ways to solve a problem. Just because something has always been done one way does not mean it always has to be done that way. And so, yeah, you get to be in control of what that means for you.
I know that you're working on this big gratitude project that you were posting on the She podcast, and that you were doing, you were putting together that book with the kids' quotes. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit more about that and how that all came. What inspired it?
Yes. Thank you so much for asking. So my new book, which is Grow Grateful, it's a gratitude journal for kids and families, will officially be out on December 3rd. And I hope everyone will run, not walk to Amazon and buy it on December 3rd.
Yes, because you're going to give me a link for me to post in the show notes.
I'm going to give you a link. Yes. As long as I have it. When is this episode going to air?
It'll be a couple weeks. You'll get it by then.
Okay. Yeah. So, side note, I'm learning, this is the third book I've published, but I've never tried to be a quote unquote bestseller, and I'm going for that this time. And the way you do that is you drive everybody to buy their book on the same day. So the sales have to all be on the same day to get listed as a bestseller. So please do it on December 3rd. But so I am no stranger to gratitude and building a gratitude practice. When I was going through my own personal life transformation, which included coming out after a decade of marriage and 4 children, I still waited many years to actually get a divorce. Once I did, and that's I'm happy to share it, but it's kind of a longer story. I couldn't do it on my own. And I finally realized it was okay to not be able to do it on my own. I needed to accept help and love and support from people around me. I needed to trust myself. I needed to trust the universe. And I discovered the power of gratitude. I realized that both internally and externally, to be able to feel grateful and to share with others that I am grateful, kind of created this sort of magic wind around me that changed the way I moved through the world and the way people interacted with me. And I was curious, like, is this random? How did this happen for me? What does this mean? And I started doing a lot of work and research in the space. And it turns out, lo and behold, it is actually scientifically proven to change the way your brain functions. The study of positive psychology, which, psychology itself has always been to get people to zero. Let's take things that are bad, and if we can just get them to zero, then we're doing well. Positive psychology came in about 20 years ago and said, we think we can do better than zero. We think we can actually increase happiness and well-being. And so I have been on this journey and studying positive psychology. And guess what? The number one thing they have everybody do to be happier and have a better sense of well-being: gratitude. People who write down 3 to 5 things that went well and why at the end of every day are scientifically proven to be happier in 6 months. Not only that, they have less chance of having a heart attack. That's true. You can Google that. So Marty Seligman, who is the founder, the father of positive psychology, it's just incredible. And what happens, I like to tell folks, we remember the number one rule is we can't change anyone but ourselves. Well, we know that's the truth. However, when we change ourselves, the people around us change. When we change how we interact with the world and what we expect from the world and what kind of boundaries we set and whether or not we're going to embrace gratitude or bravery or happiness or whatever it is, the folks around us do the same thing. So, sorry, roundabout way to get to that. I published a regular gratitude journal, an adult gratitude journal, last year. And almost as soon as it hit the shelves, I had people saying, gosh, I really wish I could do this with my kids. But it was a little bit, it's geared more towards professionals, not that stay-at-home parents couldn't and wouldn't enjoy it, but I've written it in a way that it sort of speaks to professional adults. And I kind of sat with it. I have this system, I'm going to call it a system, that when the universe brings me something 3 times in big ways, I go, okay, universe, I hear you. I'll take action. So the kids and family gratitude journal took shape, and I went on this wonderful, unexpected journey. And tonight you were one of those people where I started connecting with parents and said, I want to quote kids in this book, because in the adult version, I quoted, famous people and entrepreneurs and thought leaders. And if this was going to be a book for kids and families, I wanted to put the voices of the children within the book. So people started talking to their kids about what it meant to be grateful, what they thought gratitude was, how they expressed it, how it felt when someone expressed it to them. And overwhelmingly, I heard 2 things. I heard, wow, that was harder than I thought it would be. And also, what a great conversation. Thank you for putting me in a position to have this conversation with my kids. And you were one of those people. So I'd love to hear what that experience was like for you.
At first it was a little awkward because, they're 6. My girls were 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get a chance to talk to my son. But they were a little confused at first, but I think after we talked about it a little bit, they kind of understood it. And then after I did that clip, I talked to them a little bit more, and I think they're starting to get it. So actually I have it on my list of books. There's like 3 books right now that I'm going to get, and that one is one of them. When it comes out, I want to get that one because I think that will be really good for the kids. And then now I'm kind of thinking I might want to add this adult one to it too, because one of the things that I want to do with my podcast is that I'm going to have these interviews, but then I want to take back from these interviews and actually put it into action and report back to my listeners. That way they can kind of see the ways that it does change. It's like, oh, it's not just something that they've read about or heard about, that somebody's actually done it and gone through it. And so I want to give continual updates on that.
Absolutely.
I love it. Yeah, you guys should go out and do this too. And here's why.
I think that's great. And what makes this journal different than something else, certainly a lot more different than a blank journal, is it is guided. There are in the adult version, series 1, I'm working on a second one because I learned so much from the kids book. Of course, it shouldn't come as a surprise to me that working with kids completely changed my perspective and opened me up to things I hadn't thought of. We lose so much wonder as we grow in connecting with kids, which is why I love practicing gratitude with little ones. And we do it at our dinner table every night. What was your favorite thing you did today? And what are you grateful for? And my 6-year-old's been doing it since she was little, but she says things like, I'm grateful for we're all here together. Just so sweet. And you can kind of dig in deeper. I learned though that my parents, not actually my parents, but the parents that I talked to for the book, when they had teenagers, the teenagers were already sort of like jaded and over it. By then you had to teach them how to develop a gratitude practice. Whereas when they're little, you just build it in, you just make it part of your interaction with them. And the teenagers would say things like, well, if you pretend to be grateful and you don't really mean it, people know you're lying. Like, well, that's true.
It's that cynical side that comes out.
Exactly. But the book, the adult journal asks you to list 5 things you're grateful for and give yourself high fives. So 5 personal wins. And I always like to differentiate between the two. A win may be signing a new client, I don't know, or getting a new job. But gratitude is being able to serve this new client, or the opportunity to make enough money to support my family. You know, they're different things, and we want to feel them differently. And then in all of the books, I have 180 unique prompts. So I'm going to grab my book. This is my proof copy of it. You can kind of see there, and I'm just going to randomly open it. On page 121, what are you most grateful for about your physical surroundings? Right. Every day it's a different question, and you look around you and I go, I don't know. Oh, so I'm in my office. I think I'm most grateful for my yellow walls because they make me feel light and airy. But how often do I stop to think that? Right. So in the kids journal, because of what I learned through all of these conversations parents had with their kids, one of the kids, and I just loved it, she said, well, I think feeling gratitude and being grateful are 2 different things, which of course they are. One is external and one is internal. Right. So, and I knew that, and I know that, but I hadn't talked about that. And I hadn't helped other people identify it. And so I wrote a whole section about that in the book. And I added the question, how did you express gratitude today? So that it wasn't just reflective on what you're grateful for in that moment, but also how did you share that with someone else?
Then you're also inputting that idea is that it should be an action going forward if you haven't been doing it.
Correct. Absolutely. So we're going to add that in to the second edition of the adult journal, just because I love it so much. But this has been such a fun thing to do. And really, if I can encourage people in general, but families to sit and talk about this and be in this space of gratefulness, you know, neurologically and scientifically, it's proven that you cannot hold negative and positive thoughts in your mind at the same time. Your brains can't do it. And that's why you can train yourself to be happier, to think more gratefully, and to choose bravely. It's the same concept, right? But it doesn't always come naturally for everyone. So a journal like this with prompts every day that forces you to spend a few minutes really thinking about all of these beautiful things that surround you that you don't normally take the time to notice, it changes your neurological pathways. It changes your vibe. It changes your energy. You'll find yourself feeling lighter. I was at a conference last week with a bunch of corporate folks. I run a program called the Empowerment Program in different companies, which is incredible. And I'd love to tell anybody about it. But I have all of my students that go through the program practice daily gratitude. And one of my graduates from last year came up and he said, I have to tell you something. I have a really good friend who's severely autistic. and negative, always so negative. And I challenged him to do a gratitude practice with me every day. And I asked him to text me the 3 things he was grateful for every day. And a year later, he's off of his meds.
Wow.
And he'll come to me now and say, oh my gosh, Sean, you should see what I'm grateful for today. I can't believe it. And his whole life has changed because he built a gratitude practice and he changed what he focused on. He shifted his focus, hence the name of the first book.
That has to make you feel amazing, though.
It was so great. It was so, so great. I do an episode on my podcast every year that launches. It's on Thanksgiving because my show releases on Thursdays. That's a gratitude episode where I have folks call in. And so if this airs before November 4th, I don't know if it will or not. I encourage you all to call in. And Jeanette, you got to call in. You got to get your kids together and call in with them.
Yeah, no, I will.
And just share on the voicemail what your name is, where you're from, and what you're most grateful for from the past year. And we compile all of it together. And it's about 40 minutes of listening to people say what they're most grateful for. And I promise you, you will not be able to wipe the smile off your face all day long. And I told Sean, I was like, you have to call in with that story because people need to hear that story. So the number's 312-646-0205. And I would love to have as many of you participate as possible. It's just such a fun, feel-good thing. And there's so much power in outwardly expressing what you're grateful for. It's game-changing.
Yeah, and I think around Thanksgiving too, a lot of us get lost in, it almost feels like we have to say we're grateful for things.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we're in the habit of finding even the smallest thing to be grateful,
that
it makes, it's going to change your attitude and make that so much easier to find what you're grateful for.
Absolutely. I use gratitude as a way of reframing. Like when stuff is just not going the way I want it to, I will stop myself in my tracks and say, so for example, the traffic is bad and I'm going to be late for a meeting. I will stop and say, but I'm so grateful I'm not in a car accident right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even, the highway that I drive back and forth to work, I do a lot of that because there are almost every day there is some kind of an accident.
Yep.
And there was one day I was coming home and it was just a really bad day. And up ahead of me, I'm seeing this car that had completely flipped on its head.
Yeah.
Still spinning. And I'm just like, I'm saying a little prayer for the people in that accident. And I'm just, thank God that wasn't me. Yeah. And I am so thankful that, yes, I'm in this traffic and I had this horrible day, but that's not me.
Mm-hmm. And those are like big, maybe even obvious things, but I'll reframe. I try in every way. If, I don't know if my kids, because I have 4 of them and nobody wants to put their socks and shoes on and getting out of the house is like pulling teeth. And we all get frustrated. And if I stop and I just say, I'm just so grateful that, we can take our time, that it's going to be okay, that we can learn lessons from one another, that I can take a moment because I'm the adult and pause and say, okay, 2-minute warning, right? Or whatever it is. I just try to always find, and that sounds so cheesy and it might annoy people. I don't know, but I have learned that I cannot live any other way personally. Can't live in the negative. I just can't do it because I'll go down that rabbit hole really fast. So I will reframe as much as possible in every possible way until I believe it.
Well, I mean, like you said, if it's rewiring your neural pathways, those constant reminders will just make it so much easier than if you're just starting out doing that, or if you don't do it at all. Because I know I am guilty of the same thing in the morning, getting my girls ready because my husband takes them, but I get them ready in the morning. That's kind of our deal. And some mornings just getting them dressed is just like pulling teeth, man, right? And girls that change their minds and pull everything out of the dresser.
Socks in my house. I can't understand it, but my 6-year-old does not. It'll literally take her 20 minutes to put a pair of socks on. Like, I don't. But it's on me then to manage the time differently.
Right. And not let the anger monster or frustration out.
Yeah. But all of it, it's a muscle. It's like whether you work out or you build any other habit in your life, you can learn it. And that also means that if you've not done it before, it's hard to start. You have to be very, very intentional. So I always encourage folks, when you're going to work on in the gratitude journal, if it's going to be in the morning, if it's going to be before bed, lots of people like to do it before bed or on your lunch break, be consistent and put it in your calendar so that there's a reminder that goes off at whatever time you want it to be. If you're going to do it with your kids right before they go to bed, make sure it's next to the bed and put a Post-it note up, because it's just easy to forget. After you've done it for about 2 weeks, it'll be pretty habitual.
Yeah, I think that's something we all have to do anyway with ADHD is we almost have to put everything, either write it down or put it in our Google calendars, or we forget. And it doesn't matter how important it is to us, we can still forget.
Absolutely. And that's okay. Build a system so that you can be successful. Who cares how you get there? It does not matter. There's no wrong way to solve a problem.
That's true. That is very true. And I guess so to kind of circle back to what you were talking about earlier, you were talking, was it Marty Seligman? And I think I've read something.
Have you?
Before, because that name sounds so familiar. I swear I have. I'm not sure what it is, but I've been doing research, so I'm sure it's recently. But I did read an article about gratitude, and it's really funny. It was called How Gratitude Actually Changes Your Brain and is Good for Business.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about the scientific evidence that you mentioned and people being happier and healthier because your mindset obviously goes and affects your body and, just how healthy you are. Mm-hmm. Because then you're more able to go out and move and you're not putting all that stress on yourself. And it says that it can work like Prozac, and that it boosts your neurotransmitter serotonin and activates the brainstem to produce more dopamine.
Yep.
Well, that's what ADHD meds do, is they cause you to produce more dopamine.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people either can't take the medication because of the adverse side effects, or they just want to try something outside of the medication because they don't either they don't believe in taking the medication, or it could interact with something they're already taking, or they just want to try everything before they go to medication. So something like this, practicing a gratitude journal, that's simple. I mean, obviously it's not simple at first. I think it's something we have to work on, but that's pretty profound that it has that much of an effect on your brain.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I think is the coolest thing about this is you don't even actually have to believe it's going to work at first. You just have to do it. You can literally be like, there's no way this is going to work. But if you dig in and you find the things to list that you're grateful for, it will work even if you don't believe it.
And I've seen that with other things like meditating or yoga. They're all kind of have that same effect on your brain where they can help rewire those neurotransmitters through mindfulness and things like that. And when I'm sitting here and I'm kind of looking at this article too, and it's talking about, I mean, there are other ways that you can do, they've got the gratitude journal, but they're talking about, finding a friend that you can kind of be accountable to and talking about it with your friend, or looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking of something that you like about yourself. So being grateful about something about you, which then also I think would help boost your self-confidence a little bit, because if you're forcing yourself to look at what is good about yourself, which a lot of us have trouble with.
Yep.
I mean, it's amazing.
My favorite, this is just also my favorite days to do gratitude, because they really just sort of get me where I need to go, are the really hard days where I sit down with my pen and I think, oh my God, today was hard. What the hell am I grateful for? And then I start to say, well, I'm grateful for my warm cup of coffee from this morning. and I'm grateful that I have working internet, and I'm great. Like it's stuff that it's stupid stuff, or I'm grateful. Sometimes I'll literally be like, I'm grateful that I have legs that work. Like that's the best I can come up with. But then I go, wait, hold up a minute. I'm like actually really, really grateful for that. And right now I have a torn rotator cuff and I have very limited mobility in my right arm. And so I'm very grateful that my left arm functions like it's supposed to, despite the fact that it is not my dominant arm. So hard days are as and maybe more important than easy days. And I really challenge you to push past 3 or 5 things. Try to hit 10 things because you're going to go for low hanging fruit for the first ones. My family, my friends, my job. But by the time you get to the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th thing, you are really looking at your life and finding the things to be grateful for. So if you're going to do this, and I hope that you are,
no, I'm absolutely going to do this.
Don't cop out on it. Go push yourself to 10 things a day. Whenever I have my clients, because that's how we close out all coaching calls. I'm like, okay, 10 things you're grateful for. And every week they go, 10 things?
Like,
yes.
I can't do that.
Yes, you can. And they always do. Yeah. Sometimes they say, my clothes. And I'll say, why? And I have one guy who goes, because I look good. I'm like, yeah, you should be grateful for that. Or because I'm warm or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm always like, if it's comfortable, I'm wearing it. If it's not comfortable, I'm not wearing it.
Exactly.
Like, dresses with pockets, I'm on it. If it looks good, that's a bonus.
I love a dress with pockets.
So what are some of when people start doing this with your coaching groups and they're starting to do the gratitude, what are some of the changes that you see in them as you're doing your coaching?
Yeah, there are so many. What I start to see almost instantly is people feel more in control and less alone. Even like when we'll sit and we'll do those 10 that one day, they'll feel better than they did when they started. Because what you realize is you are surrounded by amazing things, whether you notice it or not. And they'll notice they're more calm. Maybe they feel less angry. They'll go into meetings or parenting or whatever, sort of feeling this wind behind them that pushes them and protects them. They are a lot less negative because you build up this habit and your go-to stops being why it all sucks and starts being why it's all great.
Yeah.
It's a real shift.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be
deeper, more connected engagement with others, but whether it be coworkers or loved ones, because people start sharing and expressing that gratitude and they take that grateful energy into conversations with people. And like I said earlier in this conversation, we can't change anyone but ourselves, but when we change ourselves, we change the people around us. And the folks around you can't help it. They will change too. They will shift with you, negative or positive. So whatever energy you bring into the room, that will be the energy that you give to everybody else. And it's a pretty fantastic outcome.
No, I love that so much because, you get, especially like for my job, we have budget season and everybody just walks around like zombies that hate the world.
Yeah.
And I have found that every once in a while you'll have somebody come in and they'll be in a good mood and then suddenly a couple more people are that way and then a couple more people and then the day is not so bad.
Yeah. I mean, what can you be grateful for about budget season? Hit me up with 5 things.
Oh, Jesus. It's over. It makes it easier to get through the next year because we know where things are going and where to post things. My team is working closer together than ever before because we have to be constant communication. This is really hard for this one.
But you've got 2 more.
Oh my gosh. I'm grateful when it's over.
Yeah. You started
I'm
with
less stressed when it's over. Okay.
Yeah. But how about things like it makes moving through the rest of the year more smooth.
It gives me something to look forward to. Yes, it does make the rest of the year more smooth. It's just, it's like 4 or 5 months of just hell.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason I don't work in finance. I pushed you. That was a hard one, but you can find it, right? It might take a couple minutes, but you can take even the most uncomfortable, painful thing in your life and you can find something to be grateful for it.
Yeah, that's gonna, if I get started on this now, then I should be good and ready by the time budget gets here to actually be in a good mood for budget and not want to snap at people when I get home. Or maybe I should just record my thankful things on the way home so I'm in a better mood when I get to my family. That might actually not be a bad idea.
You can do that too. And then do it again with them and share that energy with them. Yeah.
That's actually something while you were talking that I was thinking about is doing the gratitude family or the gratitude journal, especially like with my kids as part of their nighttime routine.
Yeah.
And then me doing mine while they're doing theirs.
Yeah.
And then connecting with them with that, because then I'm connecting with them more outside of all of the homework and the rush of getting home, getting fed, getting showered, getting bed.
Yep.
So I think that's what I will probably try and do.
I love it. You'll have to report back.
Yes, I will. Maybe we can have a follow-up.
I would love to.
You can hold me accountable. That'll give me something to be accountable to.
And you brought that up. Accountability partners are key. I serve as an accountability partner for anyone that I coach, but I personally have 3 different accountability relationships. And I highly encourage folks to get one or 2. I have my actual accountability partner. We talk every Thursday morning for half an hour about big things, what's going on. I have a mastermind that I meet with every 6 to 8 weeks, and we talk about really, really big picture things. And then I have this great app, which I'd love to encourage people to
Yes, please.
It's called Commit to 3, and you can set teams and so you do daily commitments and you can cheer each other on. And the team success depends on whether or not you all do your daily commitments. And there's no rule. It could be make sure I eat breakfast. It could be don't yell today, right? It can be anything you want, big things or little things. And some days are easier than others. I commit to doing only personal things on the weekend, but I still put my commitments in, whether that's, bake muffins with the kids or whatever. I include that. And Commit to 3 is an awesome app. So if you can get some folks together and build a team, it's been an amazing growth and productivity tool for me.
So is that on iOS or is it on iOS and Android?
I would assume it's on both. I'm on iOS, but I would assume it's on both.
Yeah, I'm over here on Android. I'm on the cool kids team.
Hey, yo. I'm addicted to Apple. It's a problem. But
my husband is too. And I was hardcore Apple for a long time, but I got bored with the operating system because you can't do anything. It's like all your apps are there and all you can do is put them in a folder. But with my Android, I'm like, I can do widgets and I can make it pretty and I can have things open but not go all the way into it. It's a novelty thing for me.
That with the new update on the phone, but they're slow in that way. I don't know. Yeah, it's tricky. My whole family's on it. My kids are on it. It's just
my son and my husband are both on it. My family's all on it. I'm the lone wolf.
That's okay. It's okay to be a rebel. Be a rebel.
I will be a rebel and do my rebel yell. But so what are some ways that, you express gratitude daily? Do you do it with your kids?
I do. We do gratitude every night at the dinner table. I am a member of a private Facebook group. It started as the 90-day gratitude challenge, and we've been doing it for like 3 years now where I go. So I go in every night and I list 5 things. And the challenge in that group, which I encourage everybody to do, is not to repeat gratitude. So really, like, instead of I'm grateful for my kids, I might say I'm grateful for bedtime snuggles. I'm grateful for listening to the way they laugh. I'm grateful for the ability to watch my child sleep. I'll come up with unique things. And I don't mean to keep it about kids. It's not always about kids. It's about everything.
Well, grateful for puppy snuggles or cat snuggles
or the way that it sounds when they purr, like, does it put you to sleep or, whatever, it could be anything. So I do that every night. And then what I have really embraced that is game changing is I express in the moment gratitude. So for example, Jeanette, I am so very grateful that you had me on this show to talk about this and to impact lives.
That's so very sweet. No, I'm just glad that we were able to connect because it just felt like it was perfect timing.
Yes, it was great. And so when I feel grateful, I do everything within my power to share that with anyone that gratitude is related to, because it feels good when somebody expresses gratitude, and it's this beautiful secular thing. So that's in the moment gratitude is something that I work very, very hard to practice consistently, minute after minute, day after day.
No, absolutely. Wow. I'm grateful. I'm embarrassed and I'm grateful.
What are you embarrassed for?
This is something I'm working on too. So I have a hard time accepting compliments.
Yeah, no, let's be done with that.
And so that is something I'm working on. And I think that's something that a lot of people with ADHD have trouble with, is accepting compliments. Yeah. So it's working on being able to accept them graciously and not belittle them.
That's right.
So
I help a lot of folks with that. So we didn't talk about this. So I hope this is okay. And if it's
not, it's perfectly okay, because this is something that my listeners probably have issues with too.
But if anybody needs support, I'm happy to offer a gifted coaching session to any of your listeners if they want to learn more about me and how I coach and help with that. That's just one of the many, many things. I think for folks with ADHD, building really strong system and boundaries is important, but also how to be good with you and how to let the world around you be good with you, and accepting thank you is a complete sentence. Thank you. So that's my challenge for you today. Okay. As you move through the day, Jeanette, if you receive a compliment, simply say thank you and be done.
Okay.
Right?
I accept your challenge.
So if anybody wants to work with me, shoot me an email. It's heather@vickeryandco.com and just mention this show and we'll get it set up. And I would love to offer that gift to anybody who's interested. Last week at this conference I was at, one of my most amazing past clients, whom I just adore beyond words, was very outspoken at a meeting in a wonderful way. And at the end of it, someone came up and said, wow, you had a lot to say in the meeting. And he was complimenting her, but she didn't get that far. She goes, oh, I know, I'm sorry. And I was like, you're what? We were all standing in this group of professionals. And she was like, oh. And I said, I never, ever, ever want to hear that again. And I was like, come on. I grabbed her by the arm. I'm like, we're going for a cocktail. And I just sat down and I said, what do we need to do to work through this? Because I never want to see you apologize for taking up space again.
Because that would have been my first reaction too, was,
oh,
I'm sorry.
No, the world needs more of you, not less of you. It does matter how you do it, right? That is important. But nobody should apologize for taking up space.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And I think that I don't want to go over.
Okay,
so
let's not do that.
I want to respect your time very much, and this is something I'm also working on, is my time. So I'm watching it carefully. But I wanted to know if there were anything else that you wanted to say, if you had any other apps that you wanted to recommend. I know I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get a list of links together for your books, for your journals, for your website, so everybody will have it all in the show notes so they can reach out to you, because I think this is very important, and especially anything that we can do to help rewire our brains and get away from the medication and get a better perspective on ourselves. Because and I think I mentioned to you when I was requesting the interview was that I've been seeing so much negativity from people on the ADHD support groups, and not negativity like towards each other, but more towards themselves.
Yeah.
People posting about how they've lost their job and they're just losing everything. They're losing their house because of not being able to keep a job, or they're down because their spouse is threatened divorce. And it is so hard on families and relationships. And just seeing this, it breaks my heart, because we have so much we have to fight through. But if we don't find the good in the day, we're just going to get stuck and wallow in it.
Yeah. Here's what I'd like to say to you and to all of your listeners. You are worthy. You are valuable. And you get to write your story. Nobody else gets to write your story. And I can help you with that, but there are other people that can help you with that. And so if we can just get you to make a few changes and build a few habits, it does not have to be that way, because you get to take up space.
Yes. Thank you. And I think I know I needed to hear that. And I think there are probably a lot of other people that needed to hear that today. So on that note, I just want to, again, thank you for everything. And I hope you have a most wonderful day.
Thank you. My pleasure. I hope something amazingly awesome happens for each and every one of you today.
Thank you for listening to Excuse My ADHD. If you like what you hear, don't forget to please subscribe, rate, and leave an awesome review. Show notes and social media links are available at www.excusemyadhd.com. Until next time.